In this video, I'm going to cover how to clean these Yamaha two-stroke carburetors without using an ultrasonic cleaner. There seems to be a lot of mystery about using ultrasonic cleaners, and I've only really seen that reference to the Yamaha carbs. So I'm going to take the mystery out of this and show you exactly why you probably have needed an ultrasonic cleaner and how you can clean these carbs without one. So let me go ahead and get started. By the way, this video is also applicable if you're doing a rebuild of a carb and you have a rebuild kit. Same procedure will work for the rebuild as well as for inspection and cleaning. Before we go any further, I would appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button so that you get any notifications when I put up new videos. First off, I've laid these carbs in the order they came off of. This is the top one. You can tell it's the top one because all it's got is the throttle. The middle one has the Yamaha set up to start. I don't have the plunger in here that heats up and regulates the gas flow to simulate a choke experience. And then the bottom one you can tell because it also has a throttle, but it also has a linkage to the oil unit. So I've already done these two. They're cleaned, but I'm going to go ahead and take the top carb and we're going to dig into that guy right now. So the first thing we want to do, as with any carb, is take off the drain. These have been drained. I've cleaned the outside, but I've got a, you would guess it, a 10 millimeter, right? Because I think it seems to be 10 millimeter. Take that out. We're going to take the bottom off. One of the things you want to do is inspect the O-ring gasket that it has in it. Make sure there's no tears or any other imperfections in it. If you're rebuilding these, it should come with a rebuild kit. Take the float. What you want to do is also inspect the needle valve. If you're not replacing it, what you want to make sure is that the tip of the valve is a nice triangle and not a cone shape, if you will. This one looks to be in good shape. Alright, so one of the things that you want to do, if you were changing this out, you could remove this, but we're not going to at this point. We're just inspecting. Take this rubber plug out. The idle jet is right in there. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know I've got a modified screwdriver to get to jets that are in close quarters. If you get resistance from any of these idle jets, don't force it, because they are brass. And here's where this gets interesting. If you look at this, there's these tiny little holes in there and that are part of the jet. Those holes can and do get clogged. What I'm going to do is put it in this little container, and then I'm going to take, and I'm using screwdrivers that fit these pretty accurately. But again, if these things give you any resistance, don't force them. Put some penetrating oil in there so that they come out easily. This is the high-speed jet. Now, this is where Yamaha differs from a lot of other carbs. A lot of the other carbs, the pickup tube goes into there, right into the top of the carburetor, and not only that, but there's a small tube in there that also feeds the idle circuit. That's not the case with these. So what we have to do is, if you stick your finger right in here, you can pop that right out, and what you'll see is that it also has these little holes in it. So let's put this in this container for right now. And what I'm going to do, I've got my safety glasses on, I'm going to fill this up with carburetor cleaner. And I'm going to let those guys soak in there. Now we're not through because we want to take the top of the carb off too. So again, using a Phillips screwdriver that fits well. before we do that, we have the idle mixture control. I'm taking it out because I know exactly how many turns we need to put it in there, because I have the manual. It's actually 1.5 turns from all the way closed. So let's take that out first. I'm going to put that in the solution there to let it soak as well. Finish taking these out. And they are exactly the same size as the other ones, which is, somebody was thinking ahead. There must be an engineer at Yamaha that has worked on these things and said, let me make all the screw sizes the same, so that way nobody gets confused or things get mixed up. So everything on the top side of this carburetor is actually part of the idle circuit. There's a bunch of jets in here. We've got this thing completely opened up now. What we want to do is go through all the jets, clean them out with the spray. And we're also going to do something special with these guys, and I'll show you that in a minute. Let them soak a little longer. But as far as spraying, what I like to do, so I don't get stuff everywhere, is just get a plastic container. I've got safety glasses on, and I'm going to spray through there. You can see where it comes out the top. This is into the idle circuit. So this, where this jet is where the idle circuit gets fuel from. Now, this is going to be really hard to see. I'm going to try to show you exactly how fuel is getting in there. So inside of the high-speed port, there's a little hole, and that little hole goes into the port for the idle circuit. You want to make sure that's open, because if it's not, then you might have problems idling. Idle sneeze being the most common one that I've had happen before on this engine. I'm using a piece of copper wire, 24 gauge to be exact, and what this is going to do is prevent me probing from hurting anything. But you can also tell there's a hole in there because this little plug in here is where they access that area to drill into it. So that's one area you want to make sure is clean. Let's go ahead and get some carb cleaner through all these areas that need it. That is not very big. The idle circuit, which goes into the top of the carb, and you can see that it's going to come out here actually. Now there's some idle ports here that should be coming out here somewhere. There it goes. Now here's another area you want to watch for. So on the top of these carbs, and again this is part of the idle circuit, there's 3 little holes. You can see that. And there's one bigger one. You want to get some carb cleaner through there. This is why I wear safety glasses. This is where the needle valve goes, the seat. Make sure that's clean. Alright, that's mostly cleaned out. So here's the part where most people don't go this far. These little ports inside of these jets, little holes, are actually 24 gauge. And let me give you a close-up and show you what I mean and how I clean those. So what I've done, I've got this wire. It's copper. The Yamaha manual specifically says do not use steel wires in here, and the reason for that is you could deform these holes, make them bigger, and that of course would cause a problem with, in this case, idle, since this is the idle jet I'm messing with. And I'm just gently going in and out a few times, making sure that it's clear and unobstructed. And of course, don't forget, this is of course larger than, but it doesn't hurt to run the copper wire. You can get this copper wire on Amazon. I'll put a link to it below. And it's basically very soft. It's not going to harm the brass, and we'll do the same thing with this larger jet. It actually drills straight across, which is great. So this is part of the high-speed circuit here. But still, you have a rough running outboard. It doesn't hurt. So again, the manual says do not use a steel wire. So this is what I'm using. It's artistic wire, bare copper wire, 24 gauge, 0.020 inch, and fits those little holes perfectly. Alright, so we're going to put it all together again. I'm going to stop at the top. I'm actually using the same screws that were in the top to reattach it, although they're all identical. Alright, now let's get the jets back in there. Here's the idle jet. We'll just snug that guy up in there. Then there's the high-speed jet. That end goes in first, the end without the hole. And what I do, what you'll notice is it's barely protruding. I'll use a brass punch just to set it firmly in there. You can see it's come out a little further. So that guy's set in there. Get it snug. Don't want to bear down on it too hard. And you want to make sure this little rubber cap is in there, because that's what keeps the idle circuit from getting too much gas. So all the gas that goes into the idle circuit is controlled by that little vent that comes from the high-speed channel to the idle channel here. Alright, let's get the float back on. We already looked at that needle. The needle's good. This should go easy. The needle's in there. Now, Yamaha specifies a height for this, which is 15 millimeters plus or minus 1. And what you would do, if it's out of spec, there's a little tab here. You would bend this to adjust it up or down. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this. I've got a micrometer set for millimeters, and it should be 15. I'm going to try to do this as best I can. It should be 15 at the edge. Now this float's been changed so it's not flat, so I'm going to measure it to the edge here, which means this will be slightly higher where we to measure it there, but you know, there's no practical way or easy way to do this, so I'm going to measure it there. I actually would rather the float be a little bit too bent back, because that'll ensure a good seal when the bowl is full. So we're at 15.4, so that's within spec, which is 15 plus or minus 1. And we're ready to put this back together again. There is a little O-ring on there, which happens to be in good shape. I did look at it and inspect it. Snug. Don't want it too tight. And last but not least is the idle mixture needle. So what we're going to do is turn that in all the way. And then for the 40 TLRT, Yamaha calls for 1.5 out, plus or minus a quarter. So that's all the way seated, 1.5, 1.5. and you have a quarter leeway in either direction, which I'll probably open all these carbs up a quarter, because the engine tends to run lean when it's when you first start it up in idle. So that's pretty much it. The one thing to remember, if you're working on a 50 horsepower, the carburetor is going to be really similar. The amount of turns you turn it out is a little different. If it's a 50M model, then it's 1 5/8 plus or minus a quarter. If it's an E or EM model, it's 1 3/8 plus or minus a quarter turn. Taking these carburetors apart and putting them back together is not exceptionally difficult. The one we did right here is the top carb. Everything's clean. We opened up the idle circuit, the bowl. I think the key thing to remember, which is why most people use ultrasonic cleaners, is that when you pull those jets out and the pickup tube for the high-speed circuit, it's got those tiny holes, 24 gauge or 0.02 inch, which is probably not the right measurement. I'm sure it's metric, but those are the things that can get clogged and really mess up your idle and even your high-speed operation. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. I hope it's taken the mystery out of Yamaha carbs out. There's not really a lot to them. They're a little bit more intricate and probably more complicated than other carbs that you may have worked on, but they are workable, and you can't clean these things without an ultrasonic cleaner. Anyway, if you've liked this video, hit share, like, and last of all, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button right here and you'll get notifications when I put up future videos. Appreciate you watching. Thank you.